My folks supported my former spouse amid the separation. Now they're requesting my extra bedroom. I 34F ended my marriage to my ex-spouse, Mark 37M, roughly 3 years back. The union was, listen, I'm not claiming I was flawless, but he engaged in an infidelity with his colleague that went on for 8 months. 8 months. And for some reason, my parents concluded he was the injured party in the entire ordeal. Why? Because amid the separation process, Mark crafted this elaborate tale about how I was emotionally distant and placed my job above the relationship. And how he committed an error but was prepared to mend things while I was too arrogant to pardon him. My parents swallowed it hook, line, and sinker. My father truly informed me that matrimony involves absolution, and my mother stated I was discarding a decent guy over a single slip-up. A single slip-up 8 months, they served as character references for him in MY separation. They appeared in court and discussed what an excellent partner he'd been, how he consistently assisted with family gatherings, how he was courteous and compassionate. My own folks. My mother genuinely wept on the witness stand discussing how sorrowful she was that I was abandoning the union. I ceased communicating with them for 2 years following that. Total blackout. They attempted to phone on special occasions, dispatch greetings, appear at my residence. I relocated to the other side of the city deliberately to evade them. I restricted them on all platforms. My sibling, Kyle, 31M, continued attempting to act as peacemaker, informing me they simply desired what was optimal and lacked comprehension of the complete scenario. But Kyle didn't need to endure that courtroom session and observe his own mom sob about what a fantastic son-in-law Mark was, while I was battling for an equitable split of property. Jump ahead to around 6 months prior, my father suffered a cerebrovascular accident. Not a severe one, but sufficient that he experiences some movement challenges now and requires assistance with routine activities. My mother, who's 64 and has initial phase joint inflammation, can't truly handle caring for him by herself in their 2-level home. Kyle resides in Seattle with his household, I'm in Chicago. So he's not precisely accessible for everyday support. They contacted me via Kyle initially, inquired if we could leave the history in the past and reunite as kin. I was reluctant, but I'm not heartless. My father suffered a stroke, so I began phoning them weekly, then bi-weekly. Then I was traveling there each Sunday to aid with shopping and medical visits. It was incredibly uncomfortable initially. No one referenced Mark or the split. We discussed the climate in father's rehab and what mother was preparing for supper. Shallow topics. But gradually it began to seem nearly ordinary, like perhaps we could genuinely reconstruct something, but here's where it becomes strange. Around 2 months back, mother started dropping these remarks about their residence, how the steps were becoming challenging, how the upkeep was turning excessive, how they were contemplating reducing size but the property market was difficult. I nodded understandingly, not truly pondering much on it. Then 3 weeks prior, they visited my home for the first occasion since prior to the split. I acquired a modest 3-bedroom dwelling about a year ago. 1 sleeping area for me, 1 I utilize as a remote workspace, and 1 additional that's essentially storage and a visitor space. It's not enormous, but it's mine and I'm pleased with it. They toured it and I could observe my mother mentally noting everything. She commented on how comfortable it was, how effectively I'd arranged the area. Father quipped that my additional room was larger than their primary bedroom. It's not, but anyhow. As they departed, mother embraced me, which was still odd and rigid, but it occurred, and stated, "It's wonderful to witness you thriving, dear, and you possess all this area." I should have anticipated it. Last week, Kyle phoned me. He performed that action where he clears his voice about 4 times prior to speaking, which is never positive. He mentioned mother and father had requested him to gauge if I'd be open to allowing them to relocate into my additional room, provisionally, while they sorted their living arrangements. I simply chuckled, like I literally burst into laughter on the call. I believed he was jesting. He wasn't jesting. Evidently, they've resolved that vending their home and residing with one of their offspring is the optimal choice for their well-being and finances. And since Kyle is in Seattle with a spouse and 2 children in a 3-bedroom dwelling that's already overflowing, I'm the sensible selection. I possess an extra room, I'm unattached. I operate remotely, I'm a programmer, so I'd be present if they required aid. Kyle truly employed the expression, "It simply logically fits," like he was resolving an arithmetic issue. I informed him, "Definitely not, are you serious?" The individuals who testified opposing me in my separation, who aligned with my former spouse, who informed me I was discarding my union over 1 error, desire to relocate into MY dwelling. The dwelling I purchased with MY funds following MY separation that they complicated further. Kyle became protective, stated I was clinging to resentment and that kin assists kin and father's condition wasn't strong, and didn't I concern myself with that? Naturally, I concern myself with that. But concerning my father's condition and permitting my folks to relocate into my home are two distinct matters. Then my mother phoned. She was sobbing, the identical sobbing she did on the stand amid my separation actually, which didn't assist her argument. She stated they were in dire straits and lacked alternatives, and they'd already expressed regret for the separation matter. They hadn't, to clarify, not genuinely, and couldn't I discover it within myself to absolve them? I highlighted that they'd never truly expressed regret. Like the term sorry had never emerged from either of their lips. And she became silent and then stated, well, we're expressing regret now. We're sorry, all right, we're sorry regarding the separation. But this isn't concerning that, this is regarding your father's condition. Which seemed like the most insincere regret I've ever gotten, while also being utilized as bargaining in the same sentence. My father joined the call. He sounded fatigued, which he is since recovering from a stroke is draining, and he stated we're kin, we're meant to support one another. I don't comprehend why you're complicating this so much, complicating it, like I was the issue here. I informed him I required time to contemplate and disconnected. Here's the aspect that's been gnawing at me, I possess the area. Impartially, I have a space that's presently packed with containers of outdated manuals, and a stationary bike I utilize perhaps twice monthly. And my father did suffer a stroke, and my mother does have joint inflammation and they're aging, but also they appeared in a courtroom and supported my former spouse. They made my separation, which was already among the most awful ordeals of my existence, deliberately more severe. They selected him over me, their offspring, and now they require something from me. And abruptly I'm expected to erase all of that because kin assists kin. Kyle continues messaging me. He's attempting to be neutral, but I can sense he believes I'm being irrational. He dispatched me this lengthy note about how retaining fury only damages me and how they're not ideal, but they're folks, and how we don't receive endless time with them. Which, okay. Reasonable arguments, but also he's in Seattle. His spouse's parents reside there and assist with his children constantly. He's not the one being requested to entirely disrupt his routine existence and seclusion. I conversed with my counselor yesterday, she's returned, thankfully, and she inquired what I feared would occur if I agreed. And I recognized I'm fearful they'll never depart. I'm fearful I'll be ensnared providing care for the individuals who didn't provide care for me when I required them most. I'm fearful I'll awaken at 50 and recognize I've expended 15 years being their guardian due to remorse and duty while my own existence slipped away. But I'm also fearful of what occurs if I decline. What if my father's condition deteriorates and they can't finance appropriate care? What if an incident happens and I must endure the remorse of knowing I could have assisted and didn't? Then yesterday an event occurred that's rendered everything even more intricate. Mark contacted me, yes, my former spouse, the one who was unfaithful, the one my folks defended. He dispatched me a social media note. We're not connected on there, but you can still send notes, evidently. It stated, hey, I learned about your folks' circumstances. I know matters are complex among all of us, but if you wish to discuss it, I'm available. I know what they did amid the separation was wrong, and I'm regretful for my role in that. Hope you're faring well. I gazed at that note for like 20 minutes. What on earth do you even handle with that? My former spouse, the individual who betrayed me, whose infidelity sparked my folks' disloyalty, is now regretting and proposing to what? Offer me guidance. Discuss my I haven't replied, but it's been lingering in my messages like an explosive device. And here's the truly odd aspect. I'm somewhat interested in what he'd express. Is that crazy? Like he was present, he knows what my folks did. He gained from it. Does he possess perspectives on why they behaved that way? Did they ever converse with him following the separation? Do they still converse with him currently? My counselor would likely advise me not to reply. Actually, she certainly would advise me not to reply. But there's this small voice in my mind pondering if he might genuinely have something valuable to express. In the meantime, my mother has phoned 3 additional times. I've allowed them all to reach voicemail. The final one stated, darling, we need to know shortly. We can't delay indefinitely. The property broker says we should put the home on the market within the next month if we want to seize the spring season. They're already preparing to sell, like they've concluded I'm going to agree. Kyle dispatched me a property listing yesterday for a single-bedroom apartment across the city for me. In case you want to assist them locate a spot, he stated. The lease is $1,800 monthly. which is high but manageable on their retirement benefits and father's retirement income. But mother stated they were hoping to conserve funds by residing with me, which I suppose means without rent. We haven't truly discussed details because I haven't consented to anything, but I'm presuming they're not intending to pay me lease if they relocate. I'm also presuming they'd anticipate me to assist with food and travel and prescriptions, and all else because why else would they desire to reside with me particularly, instead of simply reducing size? Independently, a companion proposed I suggest a test phase, like they relocate for 3 months and we observe how it proceeds. That way there's an integrated departure plan and explicit anticipations. But I can already envision my mother's response, a test phase, we're your folks, not a streaming service. Another companion said I should simply decline and propose to assist them locate a supported living facility or an elderly housing unit. But those are costly and I'd likely end up contributing to their expenses anyway, so am I truly sparing myself anything except the seclusion? And there's this additional dimension to all of this that I haven't even referenced yet. I've been meeting someone, nothing committed. We've been on perhaps a dozen outings over the past 2 months, but it's progressing nicely. James, 36M, is considerate and amusing, and we have genuine spark for the first time since my separation. We haven't had the partnership discussion yet, but I could envision it leading somewhere. How precisely do I clarify to a fresh man I'm seeing that my folks, who aligned with my former spouse in my separation, are now residing in my extra room? That's not precisely third outing discussion topic, and if they relocate, it's not like I can simply omit it. Oh yes, that's my father trudging to the restroom at 6 a.m. and my mother inquiring if you're remaining for morning meal. James doesn't even know the separation turmoil yet. He knows I was wedded previously and that it concluded poorly. But I haven't delved into the specifics about my folks, because frankly it makes me appear either insane or pitiful, and I'm uncertain which is more detrimental. This morning my father phoned from my mother's device. He never phones. My mother always manages the phone conversations. So I answered, "Your mother's distressed," he stated. No greeting, just directly into it. "She's weeping in the sleeping area because she believes you despise her." I don't despise her, I despise what she did, but evidently that difference doesn't count. I don't despise anyone, I stated. I just require time to contemplate. We don't have time, he stated, and his tone broke slightly. I'm 67 years old, I had a stroke. We need assistance and we're requesting our daughter for assistance. I don't comprehend why that's such a complex matter, and truthfully I didn't have a response. Because when he frames it that way, when you remove all the background and circumstances, it does appear straightforward. Parents require assistance. Daughter has means, daughter assists parents. That's how it's intended to function. Except it's not that straightforward because the background and circumstances are the entire essence. I informed him I'd provide him a response by the week's conclusion. That was yesterday, so I have 6 days. 6 days to determine if I'm the type of individual who can pardon the unpardonable because people age and become ill and require aid. Or if I'm the type of individual who establishes limits even when it costs me. And I still don't know about Mark's note. Do I reply? Do I erase it? Do I capture it and dispatch it to my counselor with a bunch of queries? Last night I entered the extra room and just remained there. Examined the containers and the stationary bike and the budget guest bed that's accommodated exactly 3 visitors in the past year. Attempted to envision my folks' items in there. My father's mobility aid, my mother's medication sorter, their garments in the storage. And I couldn't determine if the sensation in my chest was fear or remorse or duty or all of them combined into something that lacks a label. Kyle just messaged. Mother informed me you're providing them a response this week. I think you're doing the correct thing by truly pondering it. Whatever you resolve, I'll back you. But also, just so you know, if you decline, I think they're going to be truly wounded. And I'm uncertain the bond recovers from that. So that's my situation, no stress or anything. I continue pondering this statement my counselor made a few weeks prior before any of this occurred. We were discussing limits, and she stated, sometimes the most beneficial action you can take is let down people who demand too much from you. But what if they're not demanding too much? What if they're just demanding what parents should be able to demand from their children? A location to reside when they're aged and facing difficulties. Or what if my counselor is correct and I'm permitting remorse to supersede my own requirements and limits? I truly don't know. And here's the aspect that's truly confusing me. I dreamed about Mark last night, not in a loving manner. It was one of those odd, disjointed dreams where we were in our former residence and my folks were there too. And everyone was dining together like the separation never took place. And when I awoke, I had this dreadful notion. What if the existence I'm leading now, the dwelling, the limits, the separation from my folks, is actually more isolated than the chaos I abandoned? What if I decline my folks and James doesn't succeed, and I end up 45 and solitary in this dwelling with my stationary bike and my containers, pondering if I made the incorrect decision? But also, what if I agree and I forfeit myself entirely attempting to provide care for people who didn't provide care for me when I required them most? I don't have a solution. I don't believe there is a correct solution, but I have 6 days to sort it out. So yes, that's my position. My folks supported my former spouse amid my separation. And now they desire to relocate into my extra room, and my former spouse just regretted unexpectedly, and I'm seeing someone fresh who doesn't know any of this. And I have to resolve by Friday whether I'm the type of offspring who assists or the type of offspring who departs. And truthfully, I still don't know which one I'm intended to be.